Okay, good evening. It's 6:01. I'd like to call this meeting to order. We'll start with an invocation led by Councilmember Gwen McKenzie, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilmember Lynn Fugit. Please rise as you're able.
Bow your heads. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the opportunity to serve. We ask that you would bless those who are hungry, who are homeless, and who are hopeless. We pray that they will find hope. Lord, we pray for peace in this city and peace in this world. Please give us the knowledge and the aptitude to be able to lead and make decisions that are best for all that we serve. We thank you for this day. Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Mr. Johnson, would you please call roll?
Councilwoman Fugit,
Here.
Councilwoman Helsley, Councilwoman McKenzie,
Here.
Councilwoman Parker,
Here.
Councilwoman Ryder, Councilman Roberto,
Here.
Councilwoman Singh, Vice Mayor Smith, Councilman Thomas. 8 members present, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Item 4 is a motion on the minutes from last meeting.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item, 5A. Are there any items to be withdrawn? Please turn your mic on. Yeah. Put your mic on, please. Yeah, that's okay. Councilmember Helsley.
Yes. We would like to withdraw 11B. The developer is going to remove all the encroachments into the public right-of-way.
Okay, motion made to withdraw item 11B. Is there a second? Been made and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Any other items to be withdrawn? Okay, are there any items to be postponed? Councilmember Roberto.
My light's not working, Mayor, but I'd like to postpone item 10A. That's the appeal at West Ridge Drive. All parties had wanted to do a 2-week postponement, so I'll make a motion for a 2-week postponement.
Okay. Motion made to postpone for 2 weeks. Item 10A has been made and seconded. Any question or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, are there any other items to be postponed? Are there any items requested to be added by motion? Is there a motion on the consent agenda? Councilmember Roberto.
Mayor, before I make a motion on the consent agenda, looking at the weather this evening, it does look like we're expecting some less than ideal weather. And just for everyone's safety, I thought we might add a few things to our consent agenda, just to maybe get everyone out before the weather hits. I'd like to add items 8A and 8B to our consent agenda, and I'll make that motion.
Okay, motion's been made to add item 8A and B to the consent agenda. It's been made and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Any other additions or changes to the consent agenda? Okay,
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda, Mayor.
okay. Motion made to approve the consent agenda as amended has been made and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, time now for my mayor's report. I want to start by letting you all know that it's National Community Development Week and the 50th anniversary of a program that's very important to our city and has been for its entire 50 years, the Federal Community Development Block Grant Program. You have a little flyer in front of you with some more information. But this week, members of our Housing and Neighborhood Development staff, including Director Kevin DuBose, thank you for being here, Kevin, will volunteer with Knoxville Leadership Foundation's Operation Backyard program. This Operation Backyard provides access ramps for local homeowners to ensure residents can access their homes safely regardless of their mobility needs. That's what CDBG funds are all about, helping residents stay in their homes. We will be sharing more stories throughout April on our social media channels, and Director DuBose has some information for all of you in front of you, which I've already mentioned. If you have any questions about local efforts, please reach out to Director Kevin DuBose. Thank you to the Housing and Neighbor Development team for all your work on CDBG and many other things as well. This morning, I got to celebrate the kickoff of the 20th year of the Covenant Health Knoxville Marathon. It's been going on 20 years now. This annual event attracts thousands of people who run the races, but also thousands of volunteers who line the streets to cheer them on, hand out water, play music, and just make it a fun community event. So I want to thank Knoxville Police Department, Knoxville Fire Department, City Special Events, and all the other people who helped make this weekend possible. It's a weekend of activities, but the planning and logistics and training that go into it takes at least a year of preparation. So many thanks to everyone for making it possible. And just a reminder to council and to the public, there will be quite a few road closures for the races Saturday evening and Sunday morning, so please plan accordingly. It's April, so that means in Knoxville that Dogwood Trails are officially open and will be all month. The iconic Dogwood Trails cover more than 90 miles in 13 neighborhoods throughout the city. These trails are a great way to enjoy the scenic natural beauty of our region. And at least the dogwoods I've seen are right now in full bloom. I hope the wind tonight doesn't blow off all the blossoms. But we will have a kickoff week celebration this Thursday, 5 p.m. at Talahi Park in Sequoia Hills. So council, please come join us if you can. Finally, a quick reminder about our rules of decorum. Those who wish to speak either to a specific agenda item or during public forums should sign up with the city recorder ahead of time. Please do not use profanity, and when speaking to specific agenda items, remember to stay on topic. Robert's rules require that any discussion of an agenda item be germane to that topic. Those who fail to adhere to these rules may be ruled out of order and asked to step away from the podium. For those who are listening, please note that you may not disrupt a public meeting from the audience. Those who do may be asked to leave. Thank you in advance for everyone's respect for these rules. That does it for my mayor's report. Now, are there any reports of council members or committees? Councilmember Helsley?
Quickly, yes, ma'am, thank you, Mayor. CAT will restore hours to most routes effective April the 8th from the ones that were cut during COVID. There's a few exceptions, and those will be the ones that are impacted by CAT Reimagined, but we can't go through that whole presentation. So catbus.com will tell you which ones, but most of them will be restored.
Great.
6 days or whatever. Thank you.
Thanks. Councilmember Roberto.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to recognize Councilmember McKenzie. She was recently recognized as the Ethel Beck Society 2024 Woman of the Year. So just wanted to say congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations. Councilmember Singh.
Thank you, Mayor. As my council report tonight, I'd like to make some comments on the March 19th council meeting and the past 2 weeks that have passed since then. What remains strongest for me from that meeting, is the image of this assembly room filled with two ethnic minorities pitted against each other, angry and grieving, and it all felt like it was on the verge of violence. My understanding of what the resolution was actually having us vote on is that a yes vote meant that the City Council requests our federal representatives to uphold the order of the International Court of Justice that South Africa filed against Israel. That feels way out of my lane and out of my expertise. What it seems to have devolved into is that not voting on this meant that the council, or me, that we don't care about suffering and the killing of civilians in the Middle East. In my conversations over the last 2 weeks, many of my constituents have told me that they felt the resolution was interpreted as either the City Council supports Muslim folks or Jewish people, and that we had to pick sides. And that's it. That was not a simple ceasefire resolution in front of us. At the meeting, I regret that I was unable to verbalize my full thoughts. Clearly, in my defense, I had about a week to tend to the typical city issues on the agenda, and then read and comprehend the 80-plus pages of the International Court of Justice report, while receiving almost 200 emails on this topic and about 30 phone calls, all filled with pain and/or anger. Now, adding the tension that night in this room, I was more than overwhelmed. Ironically, this was supposed to be a peace resolution, but it felt weaponized and made me feel backed into a corner. Since then, I have looked into this and found that there have been about 100 local governments that have passed a resolution on this issue. About the same amount of local governments have voted down a resolution like this. The main difference with those that passed is that they had gone through a collaborative, community-based process and were about the city supporting peace, not about telling our federal representatives that they must follow a ruling by an International Court of Justice. Moving forward, I believe the pain that's been brought to our communities by this resolution is still very raw, and the situation in the Middle East has gotten worse. When we are able, I would like to see an ethnically inclusive local process to come together and find Knoxville's words to create a resolution that is about healing and peace. I would be happy to host that process, and it's a resolution I would vote yes on. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other reports? Councilmember Parker.
Thank you, Mayor. I did not prepare a council report this morning, but I feel compelled to respond since I am the author of the resolution that was just mentioned. The resolution that was before us on March 19th was, as I call it, a legal resolution. The first resolution that we considered in November took a position, and it took a clear position because members of our community were upset that the mayor spoke on behalf of the city of Knoxville and made the public statement that Knoxville stands with Israel. So members of the community, a diverse coalition of members of the community, including Jewish members, including Muslim members, Christian, those not of faith, racial minorities, came together and they wrote that resolution. I added some words to it, but they primarily wrote that resolution in November. We weren't able to bring another resolution with similar language within a year, and so the focus of the resolution had to shift. And the shift went to simply the legal process at hand currently, and recognizing that as a local city council, we also are sworn to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America. The Constitution includes our obligations to adhere to international law. So I found it completely appropriate that we would speak as a local body, as has been done by this local body in the past, although not in recent times, but in the past, this local body has spoken on those international issues, especially when it impacts our residents directly. We engaged in almost a month-long process to reach out to council members, to reach out to others in the community, to have a conversation about the resolution. And community members reported back to me that they felt good about either the support that they would receive on the resolution or the lack of opposition that they would receive. But that wasn't the experience that we had on March 19th of this year. And I believe that's why many people are upset. They're upset by how they were treated when they arrived at the city-county building and weren't able to enter the room even though the balcony was empty. Those who had signed up to speak weren't able to come to the podium and speak because they were locked outside, and so other speakers came forward. That was an extremely frustrating experience. Yes, emotions were high, But our job as elected officials are to be able to act regardless of those emotions, especially when legally we have an obligation. Now, I am someone who believes we should uphold human rights. Is our international human rights system one that has clear consequences when city council doesn't speak up? Absolutely not. But as someone who has worked for many years educating the public about the Genocide Convention and helping community members understand what our role is at every level of society and every level of government to prevent genocide, I absolutely feel it is appropriate for city councils and local governments to speak out on this issue, especially when our federal legislators have been quite outspoken about their actions in terms of the conflict in Israel and Palestine. So I also welcome a process that would involve more people. I reached out to everyone that I could think of who would have an interest in this issue, and was disappointed to learn that our mayor participated in some sort of convening but did not reach out to council members, especially those taking the lead on this issue, to be a part of those conversations. She didn't reach out to members of the Muslim community who have been showing up with concerns on these issues to be a part of those conversations. So yes, absolutely, please consider me in support of any effort to bring our community together around any issue, honestly, but definitely around this issue. It is not directly within our jurisdiction, but I absolutely believe it's a role that we have a duty to play to ensure that we are upholding our obligations under the Constitution of the United States.
Thank you. Council members, just before we move to the next, any further committee reports, I did want to let everybody know at 6:08 p.m. a tornado watch was issued for our area, and I see that Mr. Ickes is in the audience. So Mr. Ickes, if there's anything we need to know, please interrupt and let us know. I will be watching our phones, but he's the director of KEMA. Just let us know if we need to know anything and take shelter or whatever, more than we already are sheltered. Thank you. Councilmember Ryder, did you have a report?
I did.
Okay.
So hopefully, well, many of you may have noticed the large construction project and very large tractors on the Broadway corridor, the lower part north of First Creek. This is impacting the businesses in the area, and some of them are having difficulty. Their customers aren't as easily able to visit with them, and some of our media did a story on it. I would like to, I've talked to one of the businesses there that was interviewed. Well, first off, let me back up and say thank you to KUB for the work that's going on, because we do need the water and the businesses need the water. So there's a lot of necessary infrastructure improvements going on. In the meantime, there are some businesses there, their business has lightened up. So I'd like to propose, and I appreciate that Councilman Roberto has offered to come join me, and I invite you all to come join me, because I'll give him the credit for the idea. It is next Wednesday on April 10th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. So on Wednesday at, sorry, lost my notes there, 2012 North Broadway at the Time Out Deli. It's a small, local-owned business. Charlie, I hope that means you're going to join us there. Councilman Thomas? He's smiling, yes. And anyway, so they have a lot of great sandwiches and salads as well. So come join me and help support this business as they are behind some barriers and a bunch of tractors, and the traffic is kind of log jammed in front of them. Hopefully we can bring a lunch mob to them, and if you're not able to join on Wednesday, please visit them any other time. The construction is anticipated to go through June, so this is several months of impact to those businesses along there. And maybe walk or bike on, but you can also park on Cecil if you can't get in there, because that is blockaded off. So let me know if you want to join and you have some issues with parking, but I hope people will join us and support the business. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving right along to item 9A.
Mayor. excuse me.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see,
My
it's
mic's
hard
not
without.
working
yeah.
either. I just-
Councilmember McKenzie. yeah.
Thank you, Mayor. Just want to ask Attorney Frost, the announcement that Councilmember Ryder just gave publicly, does that serve as sunshining that event for other council members that may attend?
If we're all there, as long as we're.
Since
Yeah,
she
as long as
announced
you
it
don't talk
publicly?
business, I mean, talk about their great hoagies, that's fine.
Okay, that'll work. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other? No, okay, moving right along to item 9A.
9A is an ordinance amending Chapter 2, Article 7, Division 4, Section 2-771 of the Knoxville City Code to update the Knoxville Fire Department's records retention schedule.
Motion made to approve. Councilmember, there's some people signed up to speak on this item. Mr. Ruggles signed up to speak in favor of the records retention change to the fire department. If you could come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and you'll have up to 5 minutes to speak on this agenda item.
Yeah, good evening. My name is Tom Ruggles, live in Knoxville, District 2. Today we gather to discuss this important matter that concerns the efficient functioning of our city and the safety of its residents here in Knoxville. We are deliberate upon the proposed resolution to amend certain sections of the Knoxville City Code pertaining to record maintenance. Oh, appreciate you, sir. I thought I was sounding a little quiet. So yeah, we're going to talk about the fire department and their keeping of records today. And this is a very critical part of our city services. So, let me begin by acknowledging the significance of maintaining accurate maintenance and up-to-date records, especially within departments tasked with ensuring public safety, as with our esteemed fire department. Records, they serve as a backbone to accountability and allowing us to track incidents and monitor compliance with regulations and ultimately enhance the effectiveness of our emergency response, which is very important. In developing these protocols, we ought to seek inspiration from the Health Ministry of Gaza because this is an organization that has demonstrated the utmost attention to record keeping, even under the most difficult conditions. As of yesterday, they have documented the murder of over 33,000 Palestinians in Gaza over the past 6 months, in the latest escalation by the State of Israel's genocide in Palestine. Without their steadfast commitment to record keeping, we would not know the scale of this genocidal onslaught. So these proposed amendments outlined in
Mr. Ruggles,
Resolution 9A.
Please keep to the task at hand, the Knoxville Fire Department records retention policies.
Yeah, I just wanted to outline the importance of keeping records. And so, this proposed Resolution 9A, we seek to align our records retention schedule with the recommendations provided by the Municipal Technology Advisory Service Institute for Public Service. This guidance, based on best practices and industry standards, aims to streamline our record-keeping process to ensure consistency across municipal departments. While I'm in favor of this resolution, I wish the City Council would employ similar reasoning in other areas. For example, distinguished bodies such as the International Court of Justice and the UN Human Rights Council have called for the
Again,
end of
Mr.
Israeli
Ruggles,
war
please
crimes in
keep to
Gaza.
the germane
And
topic
yet
of
this
the
body
agenda item.
refuses to support resolutions calling for a ceasefire in Gaza.
Mr. Ruggles, you have to speak to the agenda item. Public
Okay.
forum, you can talk about whatever you wish, but this is about agenda item 9A, the Knoxville Fire Department's records retention schedule.
Okay. So, yeah, I would like there to be some consistency among our, how we approach resolutions. So in essence, what we're judging today is not merely just bureaucratic paperwork, but rather a fundamental aspect of how we fulfill our duty to protect and serve the citizens of Knoxville. And by adopting the suggested changes, we demonstrate our commitment to transparency, accountability, and continuous improvement in the delivery of essential public services. You all are representatives of the people, and let you give the cold shoulder to Knoxville's Palestinian community, who are, of course, these constituents. You said, "We stand with Israel, but remain silent in the face of the murder of 33,000
Again, Mr.
Palestinians."
Rogels, thank you for keeping it germane. Okay, next person is Ellis Connolly, speaking in opposition to item 9A, which again, the topic is the Knoxville Fire Department's records retention schedule. Ms. Connolly, or Mr. Connolly, Ellis Connolly, please come to the
Mr.
podium.
Connolly.
Thank you. Mr. Connolly, you have up to 5 minutes. Please state your name and address for the record, and please stay on the topic.
Yes, ma'am. Ellis Connolly, Knoxville. I believe it's District 3. Please forgive me of my stuttering. This is my first time speaking before the council. I just wanted to speak on the topic of updating fire department records and updating record keeping within such an esteemed Knoxville public service. Certainly it is useful to, well, keep up to date with records and, more importantly, ensure that such records are presented in an up-to-date format and easily accessible to all citizens of Knox County. However, it is my concern that when we are looking at updating record-keeping software or record-keeping methods, that we don't, well, neglect, and we make sure to take care that we don't neglect the, for lack of better terms, previous records. After all, there has been multiple occasions where in history, records have been lost due to shifts in record-keeping strategies. I mean, for example, in the case of the Israeli Defense Force continually murdering
Mr. Connolly,
Palestinians.
that is not germane to the topic. Please
Sorry,
keep to
I was
the
just
topic.
wanting to give an example of faulty record keeping. For example, when the Israeli, should I say, offensive force murders thousands of Palestinians.
Mr. Connolly, that is not germane to the topic at hand. Please talk about the Knoxville Fire Department or City of Knoxville. This is the requirement of the Roberts Rules of Order. You have to speak in a germane way to the topic on the agenda. Thank you.
Apologies, Mayor Kincannon. Well, I just want to make sure that we're not making mistakes with record keeping, such as organizations like that offensive force take when recording, say, casualties in certain situations. And casualties are something that are kept track of when we talk about the fire department. After all, fires are very deadly. And fires, they come with a lot of, well, for lack of better terms, unforeseen circumstances, unforeseen consequences. I don't really have a lot to say or a lot of knowledge in regards to specific fire department records, but I just want to ensure that we are not, well, losing anything in the process of changing such a strategy. That's really all I have to say about the matter. Thank you for your time.
Council, that concludes the people who signed up to speak to this item. Any further questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
9B is an ordinance to amend the Knox City Code, Chapter 2, Article 1, Section 2-4, relative to the oath of office taken by police officers and firefighters.
Move to approve.
Motion made to approve and seconded. There are two people signed up to speak to this item. First in favor is Mr. Ellis Connolly. Mr. Connolly, you have up to 5 minutes to speak on item 9B, which pertains to the oath of office taken by police officers and firefighters in Knoxville.
Thank you very much, Mayor Kincannon. Apologies for being winded. I stood up really fast. Well, I am not privy to the exact details of how the oaths of office are taken and will be changed due to the consequences of this resolution. However, it is my understanding that the oath of office is taken to defend the U.S. Constitution and to defend the American people and to defend the privileges that Americans hold dear and the rights that Americans fight for and also hold dear. Well, in light of these recent changes, we need to also keep in mind, well, the specifics of what is called for by the U.S. Constitution. And it's very important that these stipulations be included whenever such a consideration is made or whenever such a change is made to the oath of office. When a police officer or a fire department official pledges their oath to defend Americans, defend the U.S. Constitution, and defend our rights as American citizens, they need to also know that entails, well, defending the rights of minority groups and defending the rights of ethnic minorities, religious minorities, sexual orientation-related minorities, or to not go on any further or go on for too long, minorities in general. I mean, for example, following the U.S. Constitution might require following and stipulating under certain international laws, such as international laws about minority rights, the UN Declaration of the Rights of Man, and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which stipulates such thing as what is genocide and what
Excuse me,
is-
Mr. Connolly, that's not germane. There's no, the changes to the, on this agenda item have nothing to do with those things, and the U.S. Constitution, elements of it are the same. There's
The
no
U.S.
change to
Constitution
that.
elements are the same?
The oath of office is not changing anything about the U.S. Constitution or the firefighters or police officers'
Yeah.
commitments to it.
Oh, sorry, I was under the impression that police officers and fire department officials had to pledge an oath to the Constitution. I wasn't aware that that wasn't being changed. Well, it's good to know that. It's good to know that our esteemed officials are pledging an oath to uphold international law and to uphold the laws of the land and defend the rights of minorities and defends the right of politically oppressed groups, such as those in Palestine, which I'm assured is not being changed in this resolution, which is very good, because that would be very bad if we had police officers and fire department officials running around who did not defend those rights and who did not have those assurances at heart. Thank you very much for your time.
Next person signed up to speak to this item is Mr. Tom Ruggles, speaking in opposition to the proposed changes in the oath of office taken by Knoxville police and firefighters.
Hello
Mr.
again.
Ruggles, you have up to 5 minutes.
Thanks. My name is Tom Ruggles. I live in Knoxville, District 2. So talking about this Ordinance 9B, which seeks to amend the oath administered to both the Knoxville Police and Fire Departments. This does, on the surface, look like a procedural matter. However, there are, of course, some deeper implications when you look at the text of the oath of office, particularly pertaining to the police. So I'm going to speak to that in the context of ongoing police and state violence, both here in our city and abroad, as is relevant. And so the oath of officers is very mask off. It mentions nothing of the duty to serve and protect the people of Knoxville. Rather, it says, quote, "I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Tennessee and the Charter and ordinances of the City of Knoxville." It doesn't say anything about protecting or serving the citizens of Knoxville. And unfortunately, in my short 4 years of living in this city, I've seen firsthand multiple instances of police being weaponized against the people of Knoxville, which is my concern against this resolution today. The first instance of this was the arrest of local activist Nzinga Armani on a trumped-up warrant last year, ironically at a public hearing about the hiring of a new police chief. This was a clear misuse of state power to silence activists. The second interest was not even a month ago when at a rally in March calling for a ceasefire in Palestine, police officers behaved incredibly dangerously and violently towards protesters for no reason other than their own personal frustrations with the situation. On top of this, the officers grabbed and shoved multiple people and even arrested one man without much pretext. The Records Department is protecting the officers from public scrutiny. An example of this is I've been denied a body cam footage request under the guise of it pertaining to an active case, despite my request not featuring the individual who was arrested, nor the arresting officer, and occurred 30 minutes before the arrest. So this is another example of how the police are protecting each other and not serving the citizens of Knoxville. Additionally, on that day, I witnessed cops directing traffic by signaling motorists to pull up literally within this close of people who are crossing the street, a clear misuse and dangerous operation. And of course those are here that will wave their hand and disregard what I'm saying and say that this is merely a procedural manner and that they are just words. But words are often more than just words. They are ideas that shape actions. Take what Ben-Gurion, the first prime minister of Israel, said in 1944. Arab villages inside the Jewish state must resist,
Mr.
or they will
Ruggles,
be
you're
destroyed and their
getting off
inhabitants
topic.
will be expelled from the Jewish
Please
state.
stay on topic, which is the oath of office to be taken by Knoxville police officers and Knoxville firefighters.
Yeah, this I don't understand the line here because this does pertain in that it's somebody speaking and how that shapes their actions.
It's my decision
and
about
so-
what's germane, and I don't think that things happening across the other side of the planet are germane to this topic.
Interesting, especially considering, I would say, this body should be particularly concerned about things happening in Israel, considering our mayor participated in Project Interchange, which was a
Again,
direct...
stay on topic, please. That's not relevant to the topic on item 9B, which
Well, I
is
mean,
what
you
the
went to
voters on.
Israel to learn about the way that they conduct their state, and part of their state is police conduct,
Mr. Ruggles,
which is what I'm talking about here.
Please
Okay,
talk about this
I'll
item
move
and
on.
this item
I'll
only.
move on. So should we fail to scrutinize the working of this oath? Sorry, let me find something perhaps you won't immediately shoot down. Anyway, I say all this to say that I'm against this resolution because it does not call for the police to actually serve the citizens of Knoxville. I recall examples listed above are examples of legal malice used against the people. And speaking of legal malice used against the people, we can't deny that there are other instances where state power is used against the people in ways that are said to be legal by certain entities that may lead to certain
Thank you very much.
conductions of war
That
crimes.
concludes your 5 minutes.
All
Council
right.
members, that
Appreciate
concludes the
your
people
time.
who have signed up to speak on item 9B. Are there any other questions or discussion among council members? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say, Council Member Parker?
Thank you, Mayor. These lights are not working.
Yes, we've experienced that, so please wave your hand, and also I'll try to look at your microphone lights. I'm not sure what's the problem is, so.
The interruptions during public forum concerned me because I was actually trying to listen to what the speaker had to say. And the fact that you did travel to Israel and we don't know exactly what lessons you brought back from that, and it impacts our law enforcement, I believe the public should be able to ask questions, even when it comes to a change in the oath of office, because we have no information. We should allow them space to ask their questions about what lessons are we pulling from Israel and how is that impacting our local police department, including the oath of office.
Any other comments or questions before Councilmember Fugit and Councilmember McKenzie?
I would like to speak to what I believe can settle this question about the change of the oath of office. I went to the last installation of the class where they took the oath of office, and the oath of office had words in it about being elected. It's the same oath we take. Police and fire are not elected. That is the language that is being removed from the oath of office. That's it. I was there. And during the meeting, during the thing, I thought, that's strange. They're saying our oath, so it's an attempt to correct that. Am I correct?
Yeah, that's accurate, Ms. Fugit, and it certainly was brought to my attention in a very clear way when we were administering the oath of office to Officer Antoine as he was dying in this hospital, that it contained a lot of extraneous things. And so that was what
But it's
Was
nothing.
the original, the immediate impetus.
Right, there's nothing nefarious about it. They're not elected officials, so we're taking that language out.
That's correct. Councilmember McKenzie?
Thank you, Mayor. Attorney Frost, I just want a point of clarification as it relates to comments on agenda items. Those should be on topic, specific to the agenda item. Is that a true statement?
Yes, Councilmember McKenzie.
Okay. So I just wanted to say that it is not that we don't want to hear the thoughts of people, our constituents who are here today and who have signed up, but a lot of the conversation and the comments that I'm hearing are more appropriate, as you stated, Mayor, for public forum. That would be the context in which those types of views and feelings should be expressed to council. And I think that it sounds like they're being used intertwined with agenda items, and it kind of stifles our business when that's done. So I hope that the speakers have signed up for public forum so you can have your full 5 minutes to share exactly what it is that you'd like for us to hear on your stances on the things that are important to you tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Mayor, you didn't call on me.
I'm sorry, you had a...
I had another comment.
Okay.
Just in terms of our rules, because I think it's very clear to the public, especially the public, members of the public who come quite often to city council, what our rules are. And what I heard, what I was listening very closely for, was for comments to be tied back to the agenda item. And I'm very, very uncomfortable with a definition of what can and cannot be said during that moment being dependent on how those comments make you feel, whether you feel uncomfortable with those comments or not. As long as someone is bringing the topic back to the agenda item, I believe that's within city council rules. Is it uncomfortable to hear what to us may seem like a simple topic, but to someone in the public, they may be viewing it as a completely different topic? Is that uncomfortable? Do we want to rush it along? Do we want to get through this agenda? Everybody wants to be out of here by 7 o'clock. I can understand that. But as long as they bring it back to the topic, I don't believe that we should limit their ability to make their public comment on that agenda item. That's my point.
Councilmember Singh?
Thank you, Mayor. I would agree with that statement if that is what they were actually interested in doing instead of just making a point. I think the points that they want to make are very welcome at public forum.
Okay, but I have
Just a point of clarification. When I make decisions as presiding officer over these council meetings, it's not based on my personal feelings. It's based on the council's own rules. And the rules on being germane are very clear, and that's how I'm making my decisions. And so I believe that most council members agree with those decisions, and I'm doing the best I can to interpret your rules and make the city's business move forward in a reasonable manner. Councilmember Parker, do you have another comment?
I just feel very uncomfortable when we say, I support that, but I don't believe that was their intention. We don't know what the intention is. We can't assume what someone's intention is. No, we have to listen to people. And I will continue to object when public speakers are interrupted when they're still bringing it back to the topic. Even if they are bringing into issues that you aren't comfortable with. Even if they're bringing in issues that you don't feel like are relevant to the agenda item, but to them it is. So I think we can sit through 5 minutes as long as people are bringing it back to the agenda item. They're not talking about whatever they want to. It has to come back to the agenda item, that we can sit for 5 minutes and listen to the public.
All those opposed, please say nay. Okay, motion carries unanimously. Next item, C.
9C is an ordinance to close a portion of McElroy Avenue from the east side of Varner Street and McElroy Avenue intersection to approximately 200 feet east, and authorizing the mayor to execute quitclaim deeds to the adjacent property owners Urban Engineering Applicant 6th District.
Move to approve.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Council members, 2 people have signed up to speak on this item. Mr. Ruggles is speaking in favor of item 9C. And again, a reminder, the topic is closing a portion of McElroy Avenue. Mr. Ruggles, you have up to 5 minutes.
Before I get started, I'd just like to say that I don't appreciate the notion that I was not genuine in my concern over the oath. In the previous measure, I have come before this body to speak on issues of policing and attended numerous public meetings relating to
Mr. Ruggles,
policing.
again,
and so I
public
just
forum is
feel
for
I have a right
whatever
to
you want
defend
to
the
say.
comments being made directly against me, but I will begin
Now's
my 5
item
minutes
9C.
now. Yeah, Tom Ruggles, 9 o'clock has started. So we're here to talk about 9C, which proposes to close McElroy Avenue to the east side of Varner Street, approximately 200 feet to the east. And this closure of this avenue represents an opportunity for progress and development within our city. And it allows Urban Engineering Incorporated to proceed with their plans, and we are paving the way for new buildings and new opportunities. However, as we consider the positive impact of this ordinance, I cannot help but notice its juxtaposition with the devastation that we have seen in Israel, where over 70% of the buildings in Gaza have
Mr.
been
Ruggles,
destroyed over the past 6 months.
The warrant is in Gaza.
As
is
residents
not
of
germane.
Knoxville, we have a responsibility to stand in solidarity with positive development both here and abroad, including those suffering under occupation and colonization. And while the closure of McElroy Avenue may seem insignificant in comparison to these larger geopolitical issues, it's a tangible reminder of our privilege that we have here in Knoxville, Tennessee, where we are able to take up such projects and not have them torn down by violent oppressors. Therefore, I urge my fellow Knoxvillians, council members, to support this Ordinance 9C and affirm our dedication to building a brighter future here in Knoxville. Let us seize this opportunity to create positive change and advance common good, both here and in solidarity with those struggling for freedom and justice abroad. I appreciate all of your time. Thank you.
Next person signed up to speak to item 9C in opposition is Mr. Ellis Connolly. Mr. Connolly?
Thank you very much for your time and for your attention and for your sincere listening. We are here to speak today and consider the closing of a, to some minor, but to others major, thoroughfare through the city of Knoxville. Now, there are many angles we can take this from, but I am opposed to this endeavor, and I'm opposed to this action. First off, the closing of this, again, to some people, minor thoroughfare, but to others, major, does bring about the opportunity for progress in terms of developing our economic sector and developing more opportunities for tourists to come in Knoxville and enable Knoxville citizens to better move around the city that they hold so dear. However, I'm opposed to this because I believe our attention needs to be focused elsewhere, development-wise. First off, when we're speaking of development, there is no more pressing development in Knoxville than housing. We have a major housing crisis here in Knoxville. And while I am no housing expert, I certainly know that many of my friends have faced housing insecurity and have faced injustice when going through the process of, say, applying for a mortgage, or more pressingly, dealing with their landlord. There are many situations in history where this has been a case, but in Knoxville specifically, situations such as the usage of eminent domain do not bode well for the average Knoxville citizen. Because development of the economic sector often comes with the underdevelopment of Knoxville's, pardon the phrasing, I'll restart. It comes with the underdevelopment of our ability to house and maintain our own citizens. We need only look to other cities in the country who have also had housing crises, such as in New York, Nashville, many cities in Texas. Apologies, the names are not coming to mind at the moment. I'm a bit flustered. But all that to say economic development should not take precedence over focusing on development for the good of Knoxville citizens. I mean, after all, a lack of housing is partially what causes lots of disasters worldwide. We saw in Hurricane Katrina that the lack of accommodations and ability to support the displaced population within that city not only led to more deaths than the disaster itself. We see in other disasters such as hurricanes and such as the recent tornado that blew through Nashville, that it was the loss of housing that resulted in the pain and suffering of so many citizens. We see in the occupation of Gaza in Israel that it's not just the bombs and the slaughter and the bullets that are causing this suffering.
Mr. Conley, please stay germane to the topic.
I'll get back to housing, don't worry, and I'll get back to development. We see that the destruction of the developed housing in Gaza, development, is what is causing starvation and spread of disease to run rampant through these populations. And if that's not related to development, I don't know what is. I don't know what is. We need to focus on developing for our citizens. We need to focus on developing for the people and not purely for profit. And that's all I had to say. Thank you.
Okay, council members, any questions or discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item, please.
11A is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a memorandum of understanding among the City of Knoxville, Knox County Emergency Management Agency, and Middle East Tennessee Emergency Radio Systems Incorporated to allow KEMA and meters to co-locate communications equipment at a tower site owned by the city located at 727 Sharps Ridge Memorial Park Road to support and deliver public safety communications in the city.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion made to approve and seconded. There's one person signed up to speak on this item, Madison Sung. Is Madison Sung here? Is that okay? Okay, please approach the podium. State your name and address for the record, and you will have up to 5 minutes to address council on item 11A, which pertains to KEMA, Knoxville Emergency Management Agency.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Madison Funk. I think she got it wrong.
Sorry.
But I'm from District 1 in South Knoxville. I would appreciate your patience. This is my first time speaking in front of the city council. So I think we all understand how important public safety is. When our community is in danger, it is important to know. When a child goes missing, it is imperative that we step up to the plate and look for them. When there is a natural disaster threatening our city, we must be able to respond and act quickly. This is something that is true everywhere, not just for Knoxville. And I would appreciate the council's patience with me. I am going to be talking about something different, but we'll be wrapping it back up to Knoxville like Councilwoman Parker said that we would. So like I said, this is something that is true for everywhere, not just Knoxville. Take Palestine, for example. As I'm sure we all know, communication has been destroyed in Gaza.
Just keep it relevant to KEMA and Knoxville.
Ma'am, I just said that I will be wrapping it back to Knoxville. I appreciate your patience. As I'm sure we all know, communication has all been destroyed in Gaza. Families cannot contact each other, children go missing every day under rubble, and disaster comes without warning. The crisis goes on in Palestine, and it is not one that our community should stay neutral on. It is
I'm
obvious.
sorry, Ms. Fung, this is not relevant. Tie it back into the agenda item at hand. What's happening there is not germane to this agenda item, please.
One moment.
Point of clarification, Mayor, when Katrina was used as an example, there was no objection. But now we have Palestine being used as an example, and you're objecting. Can we not allow the speaker to share her example and then bring it back to Knoxville to make her point?
Thank you,
I
Councilwoman
think
Parker.
that her comments that need to stay, at least on this side of, inside our own country, is not just our own county and state.
I
yeah.
respectfully disagree with that comment. We have hundreds of Palestinian Muslims who live in our community, and even though I am not one of them, I know that I speak for them when I bring up the tragedy that is happening and trying to prevent a tragedy like that happening here.
Ms. Fung, you have 2.5 minutes left to talk to this item. Please keep it local.
So let me change gears for a moment. When I moved to Knoxville in December. I came here because I understood that East Tennesseans were some of the kindest people I've ever met. When the big freeze happened, my car got stuck multiple times, and strangers helped me to safety each time. This is a genuine love that permeates this land. So this love that permeates this land that we have for the safety of the emergency radio systems, and we can support these radio systems, but I just fail to see why that can't be supported everywhere. While I appreciate the council for wanting to support these systems here, I feel like it is our duty as human beings to support them everywhere. In the end, I believe in public safety. I believe in the safety of our people and people everywhere. I believe in doing what we must to ensure that this vision takes place. I believe in passing resolutions that better our community, whether that be on a city, nationwide, or international scale. To believe that we as Knoxvillians do not have power on an international scale only disenfranchises us as the people. It takes away our power to work within our borders and beyond them. I know many Knoxvillians who refuse to subscribe to this belief. I count myself as one of them. So, as a Knoxvillian, I call on you, my elected officials, to do as the people have demanded of you, not only to pass this resolution, but also pass a ceasefire resolution for the people of Palestine. Thank you.
Council, that concludes the people signed up to speak on item 11A. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
11C is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute any and all documents necessary to apply for, and if awarded, accept a grant from the Tennessee Wildlife Resource Agency in the amount of $400,000 for the purpose of funding a new public boat dock at Sutchery Landing Park for a project cost not to exceed $535,000, including a $135,000 local match.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Council members, one person has signed up to speak in favor of this, Madison Fung. Ms. Fung. Again, the topic is a boat dock in Knoxville. Please keep it on that topic.
Yes, ma'am. I have to say I'm all for building a public dock at the Sutchery Landing Park. This will be a great opportunity for our community to come together on waterfront events, from fishing tournaments to simply spending a day out on the river. I know many people would be excited to have something that offers us better access to the river. Did you know that docks can be vital for many communities, ways of life? From Venice, which is the city of gondolas, to Japan, where...
Again, try to keep it local.
Ma'am, I'm using an example of how this can make our city more vibrant. From Venice, which is the city of gondolas, to Japan, where even a large portion of their diet consists of fish. One moment, please. Many people come here from all over the country, all over the world, to visit us, to visit our beautiful college campuses, to visit the beautiful mountains that we call home. When it comes to the internationality of this kind, we accept it freely. But when it comes to internationality of giving back to those who admire us, we snub our noses and say that we don't have a foreign policy.
Again, Ms. Fung, we're talking about a fishing boat dock in Suttree Landing, not foreign policy.
Another issue with this pier in Palestine relates to the Knoxville and the fact that the Gaza Sea, there are thousands of pounds of natural gas. How can we be sure that this dock isn't there just as a ploy to take their natural resources? I'm sure we can take the dock's supposed industry to have the same effects. One thing in Palestine and eastern Tennessee have in common is exploitation for natural resources. From our timber and coal to their farmlands and natural gas, the United States government has made it sure to keep us disenfranchised enough to exploit those raw resources. I know many people here and across eastern Tennessee who have lost their fathers into the dangers of the coal industry and the pollution that it causes.
Ms. Fung,
much in the same way.
This is not germane. Please keep your comments to the topic at hand, which is item 9C, funding a new public boat dock at Suttree Landing Park.
While I am in favor of this boat dock, I am concerned about the fish and the pollution that they have been ingesting because of the pollution that comes from all of our coal plants. I see that this is pretty relevant to today's topic. Oh my God, my glasses. This is something that we can unite on. Something that we should see as a common struggle. We should open our eyes to the fact that under this system we are exploited and thus bring the realization that there is no us versus them. It is all of us together. Which again, is why I'm calling on the city to recognize this. I am calling on the city council to recognize the plight of the Palestinian people.
Ms. Fung,
is our plight
this is not
too.
germane. You're
That
out
our
of
fight
order.
for
If you
rights
don't
over
stick to
natural
the topic at
resources
hand,
are
I'm going to
the
have
same
to
as
ask you to
theirs.
leave
So
the
I
podium.
ask you all to
Ms.
call for a
Fung.
permanent ceasefire resolution.
Okay.
Thank you.
Council members, that concludes the people signed up to speak on this agenda item. Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item.
11D is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute any and all documents necessary to apply for and accept a grant award from the Tennessee Highway Safety Office in the amount not to exceed $200,000 with no local match to provide enhanced community traffic safety education under the Community Traffic Safety Program.
Move to approve.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Lilith Sweeney has signed up to speak on this item. It's unclear whether it's in favor or in opposition. Lilith Sweeney, are you present? Okay. You have, if you could state your name and address for the record, and you have up to 5 minutes to address council. And just as a reminder, the topic is this grant about community traffic safety.
Yeah, I'm Lilith Sweeney. I live in 37902. I've actually met a lot of y'all before. I've been doing work with the city on the eviction prevention program. Big fan of that. But yeah, good to see y'all again. Before I get too deep, could someone elaborate on the rules of what's allowed a little bit? Is there like a written something?
Yes, according to Robert's rules, which are the rules of city council have adopted to keep their council meetings going, require that any discussion on an agenda item be germane to that topic. And germane means about the topic, not about other topics. So this topic is, as you may have read, Tennessee Highway Safety Office grant with no local match required to provide enhanced community traffic safety education. So that's what it's about. You can speak on those items, but it's not about foreign affairs or other matters. That's what it's very plain language.
Yeah. Well, I was supposed to be down that I'm in favor of this one. I think some of y'all might have heard what happened in the old city a few weeks ago. A young woman was hit by a car. Some of the conditions down there are just like really intense at times. If you're there on a Thursday night, a Friday night, or a Saturday night, there are people spilling into the streets with drinks. So I don't know if this program really can do anything for like fewer drunk drivers, maybe like moving some routes around or like things like that. But I'm definitely in favor of this sort of thing. It's one of those things that like pedestrians just really do have the right of way most of the time, except at lights and like a few other sparing circumstances. It's something that was used to great effect. Where was it? It was in Rafah. There was a picket by Israelis, and they weren't allowing aid to come in.
Please keep it local.
Yeah. Oh, sure. That was about all of it. So. Well, appreciate y'all sharing all of that.
Okay, that concludes people who signed up to speak to item 11D. Council members, any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item.
11E is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute any and all documents necessary to apply for and accept a grant from the State of Tennessee Highway Safety Office in the amount of $35,000 with no required local match to provide overtime funding for pedestrian safety campaigns.
Move to approve.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Council members, one person has signed up to speak in opposition to this pedestrian safety grant. Ms. Madison Fung, please come to the podium. And again, you are aware that you're supposed to speak on the agenda item at hand.
So I've already talked about how important I think public safety is, and I am certainly not against this proposal in the traditional form. Frankly, I'm against it because I don't think it's enough money that is going to be sent to, the State of Tennessee Highway Safety Office to provide overtime funding for a pedestrian safety campaign. Knoxville is a tourist town, it is a college town, and yet only very select portions of it are walkable. I live in South Knoxville, and it's basically, a food desert there. It's impossible to walk anywhere and get your groceries and be able to walk home and back because of the conditions, whether it be that our sidewalks are underfunded and broken, or there are no sidewalks at all. So, as a tourist town, we want to not only showcase just our downtown and our college campus, but also the entire town itself, because what is Knoxville if it's not, downtown? It's people, and that's what Knoxville is. Knoxville is people. So, like I said, we should be funding these pedestrian safety campaigns even more. We should be funding driver safety campaigns where maybe not policing them more, but providing better education on how to be safe around pedestrians. We should be providing more information and resources for drivers who are trying to make their way downtown so that we can try to be safer. Because I know for me, I DoorDash for a living. I'm in my car all the time. And I hate going downtown, and I hate going down to the Strip because it is so stressful driving there, not only because of the traffic, but because of all of the people. And it's not a people problem, it's a problem that our infrastructure is not set up correctly to be able to account for the amount of traffic that we have and the amount of people that we have. So I'm against this resolution simply because I don't think it's enough, and I think there should be more funding. Thank you.
Thank you. Council members, that concludes people signed up to speak to item 11E. Any questions or discussion? Councilmember Ryder?
Yeah, there's several of these grants that are THSO that are relevant to safety programs. Have we applied for these before? Are they new? Have we received them before?
Chief Noel?
These are all grants that we've previously applied for before in Middlewater.
Okay, so they would just be continuation?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, appreciate it.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, Councilmember Parker.
How will this program and these efforts tie into the oh, now I'm forgetting what it's called. The Zero Pedestrian Deaths campaign that we have. Vision Zero. How will this work tie into the Vision Zero campaign?
Thank you for your question, Ms. Parker. This is very much consistent with our Vision Zero priorities, and it will be aligned with that fully.
Because I'm starting to see statistics, like in this packet, it says our traffic fatalities are increasing in Knoxville, and so we are potentially, able to pursue these funding opportunities to address some of those traffic fatalities. But what I would like to get a better sense of is where they are happening. A few months ago, the KPD released some numbers about traffic fatalities, and in 2023, it looks like there were 45 people who died in a traffic crashes, and of those 45, 10 were pedestrian fatalities. And it does seem that we are largely focused on the pedestrian fatalities and preventing those. And I would like to get a better sense of what were the causes of those. Were these on state highways? Were these in neighborhoods? Were these, interstates? And, were these, I've seen some pedestrian fatalities along the railroad tracks. But it would be good for us to have a sense that since we have this commitment as a city, this Vision Zero commitment, to have a better understanding of how traffic fatalities and specifically pedestrian fatalities are occurring in our city.
Thank you, Ms. Parker. Our Vision Zero plan does identify the parts of town that have had the most pedestrian fatalities and other kinds of fatalities. They do happen to be often on state routes such as Magnolia and Chapman and Broadway. And so, perhaps council would want to have a workshop to learn more about the Vision Zero plan and share some insights. I just appointed Cody Gentry to be our Vision Zero coordinator, and if council wishes, we could definitely have a workshop on that in the future. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
11F is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute any and all documents necessary to apply for and accept a grant from the Tennessee Highway Safety Office in the amount of $200,000 with no required local match to purchase traffic safety equipment and to provide for overtime costs to enforce impaired, distracted, or aggressive driving, occupant protection, and speeding, and to conduct high visibility and traffic calming operations.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Council members, one person has signed up to speak in opposition to this, Ms. Madison Fung. You please state your name and address for the record. You'll have up to 5 minutes to address council on the topic of this agenda item.
Yeah, I'm Madison Funk.
Funk, sorry.
It's okay. I'm District 2, District 1, South Knoxville. Despite how committed I am to public safety, I am extremely against expanding our police presence across the city under this pretext. Our police department is plagued with corruption and vileness, from a shooting in innocent black kids to dragging a woman out of the hospital and allowing her to die on the street. I do not care under what pretext this, quote, purchase of traffic safety equipment, unquote, happens to be under. It's only going to be used to surveil us more. This exact thing is happening in Palestine right now. The IDF
Ms.
is
Funk,
using the state-of-the-art
please
tracking
keep it to
equipment to
local
Palestinians
issues.
on the
I will rule you out
occupied
of
state of
order if you
Palestine.
don't keep it
They
to
are
the agenda
using it to
item.
enforce their apartheid state.
Ms.
in
Funk,
which-
I ask that you please keep this to the agenda item. It's not germane what is happening across the other side of the planet.
I
Please
am
keep
going
it
to
to
wrap
local.
this back over to Knoxville, ma'am.
Keep it local.
It is a local issue, ma'am. This surveillance state that we were all warned against is already here. Did you know that the IDF gets all of their police training and
Ms. Funk,
training and
this is not
tactics
germane.
from right
I'm
here
ruling
in the
you out of
United
order.
States?
Ms.
I'm
Funk,
sure that we are all aware.
please
Did you know that the IDF gets all of their training from
keep
here
it
in the United
germane to
States?
the topic, or I'll
This-
ask you to step down.
I apologize, ma'am, but this
Yeah,
is a local issue.
Keep it germane to the topic, which is about which item are we on? F? F, yes. The purchase of traffic safety equipment in Knoxville and overtime costs to enforce impaired, distracted, or aggressive driving. That's
So
what the
this
topic
is
is.
about
It is
surveillance.
not about what's going on in other countries.
So this is about surveillance. We can all agree on that. This is about surveilling drivers, tracking them across the city, seeing what is going on, who's doing what where. And I'm trying to tell you that this is something that is not only a Knoxville issue, which means that we should be more concerned about it than we already are. That's what my point is, Madam Mayor. So how can we ensure that these same crimes will eventually not be committed against us? I mean, they already are. The disproportionate amount of violence against our Black community proves this. This is one more thing that we as Knoxvillians have in common with Palestinians. We are facing the same violence though at this exact moment, not the same extent as the Palestinian people. This should drive us to not only prevent these crimes at home, but also abroad. We should be able to see where our struggles align and where we reach across international borders and say we stand with you and with each other
Ms.
against
Funk,
violence
please
in our
keep it to the
communities.
item at hand. That's not germane.
We must stand with each
That is
other
not
to ensure
germane.
that violence is not only discontinued but eradicated from our community. So I am asking you as a city council to vote against this police state, to vote against this surveillance, and to stand with your community who is asking for a lesser in violence against us. Thank you.
Council members, that concludes the people signed up to speak to item 11F. Any questions or comments? Councilmember Fugit.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to make a comment about what I think we're actually voting on, which is, are we going to allow you to apply for a grant? And if awarded, take that money to do these things? Am I correct? Thank
Yes.
you. I am for it. Look forward to the vote.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
I have a question.
Any opposed?
Do you want me to raise my hand?
Yes, I didn't see. You had to comment?
Yeah, since the issue was raised, could the chief please go through what traffic safety equipment is planned to be purchased with this grant?
So if we are awarded this grant after we apply for it, we will have the opportunity to purchase different traffic safety equipment such as radar and LiDAR, which we use to enforce traffic laws, traffic cones, reflective vests, and a variety of other supplies that we use to conduct traffic investigations.
Okay, thank you. When there is, and we don't have true transparency in place when it comes to understanding what surveillance equipment is being purchased and being used. And I do plan to bring an ordinance before this body to adopt some of that transparency. But some of the concerns that have been raised are real concerns that I have as well. We are learning from other jurisdictions, not only around the country, but around the world. And we've just had a mayor who went to learn some things from Israel. We still don't know the details of it. I'm very concerned about it. By no doubt, I'm very concerned about it. Every human rights organization in the world, this is a topic of conversation of what other cities are learning from Israel, especially when we're talking about a surveillance program. So I'm very concerned. And whenever we have an agenda item that might include some sort of equipment, I want to know whether it's going to be used to surveil. And part of the reason behind that is because once you start researching a lot of these surveillance equipment companies, a lot of them are data mining companies. They're not producing products that necessarily deter violence or help in crime solving, but they collect data and they sell it. And then that does pose a threat to our community. It does make us less safe. So I have some very real questions, and I understand members of our community who have very real questions about what equipment is being bought, how it's being used, how are we regulating it. And I'll tell you, we're not currently regulating it. So please continue asking questions. I think it's very important.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
11G is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute any and all documents necessary to apply for and accept a grant award of $200,000 with no required local match from the U.S. Department of Justice Community-Oriented Policing Services to be used to support and enhance law enforcement mental health and wellness act programs and activities for police department staff.
Move to approve.
Motion made to approve and seconded. There's one person signed up to speak in opposition to item 11G, Lilith Sweeney. Lilith Sweeney, are you present? Please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and you have up to 5 minutes to address council on the topic of community-oriented policing services to enhance law enforcement, mental health, and wellness programs.
Yeah, thank you. It's me again, 37902. Something that I think would be really important is these kinds of services being spread out to maybe a lot of different groups. Of course, the fire department is the most natural one, but also just in general, there's like a lot of mental health problems going on in the city. We could do things, alternative response, other things like that. 200,000, not that much money, having looked at these programs, and I do kind of hear that. But yeah, that could be a great start on something and using the hospital. I know that was something that got put forward with earlier alternative response programs. A lot of people, yeah, they just don't have a lot of hope here in Knoxville. I mean, we got a lot of things going on. There's the higher amount of housing occupancy than other cities. We've got just a high amount of traffic deaths and other things, and then genocides in the news, and it's like, what are we supposed to do? So I would like to see services like this be expanded and used more. Yeah, thank you all so much.
Council, that concludes the people signed up to speak to item 11G. Any questions or comments from council? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
11H is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with Design and Construction Services Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $117,000 for the construction of a push wall in order to add a third compactor at the solid waste transfer facility located at 1033 Elm Street.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Council members, there's one person signed up to speak in opposition to this, Madison Funk. You have up to 5 minutes to address council about your concerns about item 11H, which is about adding a third compactor, a wall, to allow us to add a compactor at the solid waste transfer facility.
So I'm not going to stand up here and pretend that I know exactly what a solid waste the facility does, but I am going to address my concerns about expanding this facility in one of the most disenfranchised parts of the city. As we all know, a majority of our Black population has been pushed into East Knoxville, whether that be by redlining or simply because it's where more people who are poor can continue to live. With the effects of redlining, East Knoxville has, I'm sorry, that was the wrong point. So of course, we would locate all of our waste management to be there as well, because we have to keep the rich, nice, white parts of Knoxville all nice and clean, and you know, it's just racism. And so I'm concerned about what this will mean for our brothers and sisters in that part of our community. This resolution only speaks to a much larger issue in Knoxville, which is the disenfranchisement of our minority communities, from the Black community being pushed eastward to the silencing of Palestinian voices 2 weeks ago. We cannot allow these voices to be silenced, yet you are allowing them to be, and that is something that stands against my moral values and moral values of many, many other people in Knoxville. So, in the end, I would like to know more about what is happening to our community in this area of the city. I want to know why we have decided that this is where our city's waste management is going to be held and why it cannot be spread over parts of the city. I want to know why we have decided that we are going to allow to continue the disenfranchisement of these minority voices. Thank you.
Thank you. Council members, that concludes people signed up to speak to item 11H. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
12A is an ordinance to amend the capital budget and operating budget, both as approved by Ordinance O-69-2023 for fiscal year 2023-2024, and to transfer surplus, excess, or unencumbered funds between various units and funds as reflected in the various funds and budgets of the City of Knoxville.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Council members, one person has signed up to speak in opposition to this item, Juno Murray. Juno Murray, are you present? Okay, Juno Murray is not present. There's nobody signed up to speak to this item. Any questions or comments from council? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
12B is an ordinance to adopt the one-year plan dated 2024 as prepared by the Knox County Planning Commission for the City of Knoxville, all districts.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Council members, there are two people signed up to speak in opposition to this. First is Juno Murray. Juno Murray, are you present? Nope, okay. Next person is Lilith Sweeney. Lilith Sweeney, are you present? Okay, that concludes the people who signed up to speak. Oh, okay. Lilith Sweeney, please come to the podium. You have up to 5 minutes to address council on item 12B. One-year plan update.
Did we skip 11J? Is that what
Those
happened?
were passed on the consent agenda.
Okay.
So they were already passed.
Thank you. Yeah. I was earlier in the year part of the planning process for the people's budget and things like that. And so I'm out here to kind of oppose this one on the fact that like a lot of the things that we did want in were not put in, things like alternative response or a full right to counsel and eviction court.
This is item 12B, not the budget one was already approved. This is the one on the one-year plan. You didn't sign up to speak to 12A.
I thought the budget would be a part of the one-year plan, so. Is this for more?
Not really.
Is this more like zoning or that kind of thing?
Yes,
Land use.
it's land use.
In land use?
Land use, yeah.
Oh, word. Okay. Cool. Well, thank you.
Okay. That concludes the people who signed up to speak to item 12B. Council members, any questions or comments? Councilmember Ryder.
Yes, I have some questions for Ms. Brooks, but before I dive into those, I would like to, I made the motion to approve this agenda item. I would like to make a motion to remove the RN3 from the low-density residential land use table.
Second.
Okay, motion has been made to, a motion to amend has been made to remove RN3 from the
From the low density, from the land use table.
From the land use table.
Classification table.
Okay, that motion to amend has been made and seconded.
Mayor.
Councilmember Roberto?
Thank you, Mayor. Can I make a friendly amendment? There's actually several points, there's several places where what you're talking about, Councilmember Ryder, appear. I was going to suggest that on page 11, we remove RN3 under subsection permitting zoning districts, returning that section to read, areas should be zoned AG, EN, RN1, and RN2 as appropriate and provided for under the Knoxville zoning ordinance. Would that be an okay addition? I think that was the intent of the motion, but I just wanted to be real specific about what we were taking out.
Yeah, so it's basically reversing the motion that was made by Shelso and seconded by Higgins at the
Exactly.
Planning Commission.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then the second one, there's only three. The second one was page 12, removing RN3 under subsection permitted zoning in the second bullet point, and returning that bullet point to read RN1 and RN2 may also be considered. Again, that's just returning the language to what was before the amendment that was brought by the members of Planning Commission.
Okay.
Is that okay? Okay. And then the last one is on page 44. It says RN3, I want to remove RN3 from LDR, which is low-density residential, returning the permitted zones to AG, EN, RN1, and RN2. And I think that encompasses all of the places that you were referencing.
Yes,
Okay.
it was just stated much simpler at the Planning Commission.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm a little confused about where we are in the amendment process. Does everyone, I mean, do you want to try to clarify this?
What I was saying was, my interpretation of the discussion was that these are friendly amendments just to be very specific about what we're taking out. And so that's what I put there. What I understood was Councilmember Ryder accepted those as friendly amendments, so that becomes the amendment, and that's what we're voting on.
Councilmember Ryder?
Yeah, so Councilmember Roberto, you're basically reversing what's on page 264 in our packet.
Exactly.
Does that help you, Mr. Johnson? Ms. Brooks, it was much simpler stated at the Planning Commission, because I watched it last night. My memory's not that bad.
Amy Brooks, Knoxville County Planning. What was, maybe a little bit of clarification on what was more simply, in terms of the commissioners did vote on adding RN3 to LDR. Is that what you're speaking to?
Yes.
Specifically? Yes.
Yes. And they made a very simple motion to add RN3 to the LDR. And so,
That's correct.
rather than me just saying that, Councilman Roberto is suggesting that we say all of what's on page 264 in our packet. So I
Yeah.
just am being clear. Sorry, everyone.
Yes,
He's just being clear. I don't know.
and that is included in your AIS sheet. In the back, it talks about, on that second page, at their March 7th meeting, this was the specific edits that would need to be made in order to incorporate their requested amendment.
Okay, which was simply stated as adding RN3 to the LDR. So we'll go with Roberto's.
Okay,
A friendly second, I will do that too.
okay. So the friendly amendment has been made by Councilman Roberto, seconded by Councilman Thomas. Does everyone understand what the amendment is? All those in favor of this amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 8-1. Motion to amend. Now back to the original motion as amended. Further discussion, Councilman Ryder.
Yes, please.
Councilperson Ryder.
So, Ms. Brooks, to maybe be a little clearer about what we just voted on, I'm going to maybe hopefully summarize pretty quickly, and maybe you can tell me if I'm right or wrong. So for everyone's understanding, the one-year plan is one of the bases for our land use and our zonings. And each year, by our code, you guys put forth the one-year plan. Ms. Hillman, I apologize, I didn't get to watch all of the meeting, but that is a recorded meeting that people could watch and should watch and people participate in. You guys did not recommend the land use classification table to be changed to include RN3 in the one-year plan this year, but it was added by motion at the Planning Commission. And what I would like to ask, and my intent behind supporting this motion to remove it, is because I'd like to be clear, because all my colleagues and I may not be on the same page. I would like to ask that you and your staff look at the rationale for why Shelso and Huber and others made this motion to move that RN3 to the land use classification table. And if that is something that is deemed necessary, include it in the next year's one-year planning process and inform council where the discrepancies and issues occur that warranted that motion to be made. Okay.
Yes, we can take a deeper dive.
Yes, I would like a deeper dive. I would like explicit examples for my colleagues. So when we transition from the old zoning code to the new zoning code under recode, there are some uses that were, there's some divergence in what our R1A and R3 and RN3, it got commingled and divided in multiple ways. So some of the uses that were allowed in, that are currently allowed or currently are in 3 were and are allowed in the same places that were low density residential prior. And the way that we have changed things with recode and the land classification tables now, there are some things that just don't line up correctly. One thing that I'll say is, Ms. Brooks, the current RN3 allows for fraternities and sororities as well as independent living in the use code, in the use matrix.
They're allowed after a special use review.
Okay, but those things are not allowed in the other low-density residential zones, like RN1, RN2.
That is correct.
Okay, and the uses that fall under the current RN3 that used to be low-density residential, it's like things are commingled. Am I making sense to you? And maybe?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So what we've done by not putting some of those same uses, because we don't have R1A anymore.
Correct.
We've bifurcated some of the R1A uses to RN3 and RN2. So we've made this quandary where some of the things that used to be R1A that were low-density residential are now being treated as medium-density residential because they got lumped in the pot of RN3.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, thank you. So why I am supporting this amendment is so that the staff will go back and hopefully come back in the next one-year plan and resolve some of that issue, and we can make people not have to go get rezonings for the fact that they are in the low-density residential part of the RN3, not to allow sororities, fraternities, and independent living within our single-family neighborhoods, which was the concern that was raised by our constituents. I'll leave it at that.
Councilmember Singh?
Thank you, Mayor. Ms. Brooks, the conversation we had earlier today, the reason that I was not in favor of the amendment, and I want to make sure that I have it clear, is by including this into the low density, it's actually enabling us to tweak slightly the ability to provide a little bit more housing variety in more areas.
Potentially. So in RN3, townhomes are allowed as a special use under the special use review. So it's not by right, but yes, it introduces a new housing type into the low-density residential land use classification.
And from what Ms. Ryder's asking, she's just saying, look at that again, and we're going to be doing that very soon anyway. Looking at the one-year plan.
Yes, well, we only update the one-year plan once a year.
Right.
I think the request is, hey, over this next year, take a closer look at RN3 and provide some additional analysis of where those inconsistencies are, what the issues are, and come back with a more refined proposal. Is that correct, Commissioner? I mean, Councilmember Ryder.
Thank you.
Councilmember Fugit?
Thank you, Mayor. I support removing all of it because, and you can look at it for another year, but the fact that this just came out of the blue at a planning commission meeting with no public discussion. We were surprised by it on this body. I don't appreciate being surprised about a big zoning thing. And that's just not the right way to do business. When you're talking about zoning, which concerns people's most expensive investment they ever make. We went through a lot of angst going through middle housing, making sure people really understood it before we made zoning changes. And things have gotten very confusing after recode. And I understand we're trying to clarify that, but clarifying it by a motion, a second, and a vote at a planning commission meeting and coming to this body as a change in the one-year plan with no public discussion is not a good way to do business, in my opinion. So I appreciate that planning staff didn't recommend it. And I think if it's going to come through again next year, it needs to be fully vetted and recommended by staff. I understand that planning commission's job is land use. Ours is also to represent the constituents that own the land that is being rezoned. So we kind of have different roles to play, and so I can understand why they felt comfortable with it, but when we're getting blown up by people who are like, where did this come from? We don't know anything about it, and it doesn't feel good. I appreciate the pause.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Councilmember Thomas and then Roberto.
Yeah, I just want to be very succinct. I would underline everything that Councilperson Fugit said, and that was the reaction I was getting from my constituents as well, and for the same reasons. This is really complex. I myself just got the packet Thursday, and to be able to go through all this and the history and why we're doing what and the unintended consequences, it's impossible. So thank you for those comments.
Councilmember Roberto.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to concur with my colleagues. You know, I think that we all appreciate the work that planning commissioners do, but in this particular instance, we really need to be giving people notice about what's going on and an opportunity to participate in the discussion. Specifically, the issues that I saw with regard to this are that this would create confusion and some contradictions that would make it very difficult for people to understand exactly what's going on. Specifically, the purpose statement in RN3 talks about the intent is to accommodate medium-density residential neighborhoods. Putting that into a category that's categorized low density doesn't make sense. You're then adding low and medium in the same place. That's not to say there might not be some changes to look at, and so I agree with what my colleagues have said as well, but those terminologies don't mix. Also, when you look at the land classification chart, when you're thinking about the levels of density, low is 6 or fewer dwelling units per acre, and medium is 6 to 24 dwelling units per acre. Again, there's a contradiction there if you put something that's intended for medium into low. So that was specifically some of the issues that I had. I do know that, you know, staff has recommended making this change before, and, you know, we've definitely heard conversations from planning commissioners about this as well. But my suggestion would be that if we're looking to redefine the densities in uses in LDR and MDR and HDR, which is low, medium, and high density, we need to go back through the text of all the plans, because they're all coming from the general, the sector, and the one-year plan. So we really need to look at the text of each. If staff thinks that we need to review the maps to identify areas that should go from low density to medium density, I think we can do that too. That might not necessarily make us have to change the definitions, but we could then look at the maps. And I think we should do those in a standalone way, as opposed to doing it when it's in the one-year plan. I do think that more study is needed in all of these, but I think there's a way of doing it so that we can make sure that everyone's aware of the changes that are being made and they can participate in the debate. And so that would be my recommendation. If if in looking at this, you think it's a good idea to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other, Councilmember Singh?
Thank you. I hear what my colleagues are saying, the confusion, and I hear the points. I think I want to remain the outlier because I keep on trying to push and push for less restrictions. But I do like what Councilman Roberto said about looking at the map and making some of these decisions. That makes practical sense. Thanks.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of this motion as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 8-1. Okay, next item.
12C is an ordinance to change the base zoning classification of property located at 0 Western Avenue from IG District to CG1 District. Mikhail Habib, applicant 6th District.
Motion made to approve and seconded. One person signed up to speak to this. Juno Murray, are you present? Juno Murray. Okay, nobody else has signed up, so council members, any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
12D is an ordinance to change the base zoning classification of property located at 610 and 612 Hollywood Road from RN1 District to RN2 District. R. Jason Barnes, applicant 6th District.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next we have public forum. First person signed up to speak is Vivian Shipe. Ms. Shipe.
Vivian Shipe, 3615 MLK, Knoxville, Tennessee, 37914. I'm coming before you. First of all, I have a question. My question is why? I want to know why we failed to save the foyer. You see, we've got to start thinking outside the box. And grants is not the way to do everything. One of the statements that they made was they decided they had to close the foyer because of the ability to get grants. That's not their responsibility. It is our responsibility to take care of the least of us. And we don't have to reinvent the wheel. There are organizations in Knoxville that have been doing this kind of work, helping the homeless, sheltering for years. Connect Ministries has been doing it almost 20 years. We don't have to go out and try to find grant money, and we should not. Taking care of the homeless should be part of our budget. It should be a recurring line item in our budget. So I come before you not only just to bring that up, but to bring you some suggestions and some ideas, some think outside the box ideas. So my suggestion number one is I mentioned Connect Ministries. Why don't you turn that building over to them? And why don't you let them be the umbrella for Care Cuts Ministry, which is another organization that has been working with Connect for years. When she first started, she came to Connect. That's how she knows what to do, because she came to Connect and she talked to them about how do we do this. So this is a suggestion. And when you do that, don't just turn the building over. Go over there and get some of that money out of that rainy day fund that's just sitting there collecting interest. Millions of dollars sitting there making us money, but we're not doing anything to help the least of us. So now you got opportunity. You let it close. It's closed. So my idea is when you reopen the doors, think a new way. So you don't have to eat an elephant all at once. You eat an elephant a piece at a time. So let's do this. You need to reopen that building. Turn it over to somebody, put money behind it. We didn't have no problem putting up $75 million for a stadium. We don't have any problem setting aside. I remember we set aside $14 million for a stadium floor that's not going to be open for 2 years, but we set it aside. Now we're talking about $25 million to build a bridge from South Knoxville over here so we can party down on Nayland Drive. I asked you about the $6 million when you didn't get the grant, Can you give that to the homeless? No, because we're going to get that bridge. And you're going to get it. But in the meantime, you got to answer to a higher power. You got to take care of the least of us. This is what's not being done. So let's take it, let's bite it out a piece at a time. So when we reopen the foyer, let's take care of the elders. Do you know that if you check with the census that every single day, every day, 10,000 people in America turn 65. That's a fact. So what you got? Now you got 65 and up over here. You got 18 and under over here. You got an abortion law that keeps people from having their rights because you want to make babies. Nobody's stupid. No one is stupid in this country, but it's time for us to be accountable for the least of us. And we got to talk about it, and we got to do it. So when you open those doors, here's a suggestion. Open it back up, and let's take care of the seniors and the elders, like the man that was sitting on Broadway. He was old in his wheelchair, nobody take care of him. So let's make the first bite. Okay, let's open the foyer. Let's take care of you got to take care of people. So let's start with the seniors. Let's take this and let's open it up. Okay, we're going to take care of the seniors. Now that you know that there's 65 people, 10,000 65-year-olds every year, let's go get some of these other buildings. Let's get some empty properties and take that money out of this. It's just sitting there making us money and start taking care of our own. Tonight, you can lay at your feet when that tornado, and I'm praying, Lord, no, let us pass us by. Because when you lock the doors, you put those people on the street, where are they going to be tonight? Where are they going to be? Where are they going to shelter? We got to do better now.
Okay, next person signed up to speak is Tom Ruggles. Tom Ruggles, are you present? Okay, next person is Juno Murray. Juno Murray, are you present? Okay, next person is Madison Funk. You have up to 5 minutes to address council.
Before my time starts, I have a question on how to conduct this public forum. Are we allowed to speak on whatever we want?
Yes.
Okay, great. So in that case, I would like to bring to the council a little bit of education as soon as I can get my phone open. Here we go. All right, so this is something that I wrote for a speech that I was going to give that unfortunately was canceled, so I'm going to give it to you. Lately, I have been consumed by grief and rage because of the ongoing Palestinian genocide. I'm consumed by grief at the fact whenever I open up Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, whatever, I just see genocide. I see dead Palestinian babies. I see starving children. I see airstrikes against civilians. I see destroyed swaths of a beautiful city. I am consumed by rage because of this genocide that we are witnessing firsthand. It's not the first time this has happened. Israel's current attitude of ignoring international community is not new. In fact, it is an established pattern of callousness and depravity. So, let's talk about it. Now, Israeli settlers started entering Palestine in the late 1800s, forcefully taking their lands and homes, displacing thousands of people. There was an uprising, known as the Arab Revolt, that was squashed by the might of the British Empire in 1939. 2,000 Palestinian homes were destroyed, and 9,000 Palestinians were put into concentration camps. The Nakba had started. For those of you who don't know, Al-Nakba means the catastrophe. Let that sink in. Officially, Al-Nakba is dated as May 15th, 1947. During this time, 750,000 Palestinians were forcibly displaced from their homes, and over 15,000 were killed. That is half of how many have been killed in Gaza in the last 5 months. The village of Deir Yassin, this violence was especially depraved. Over 100 people were killed in the most brutal of ways, spanning from being burned alive, tied to olive trees, or lined against a wall and shot with submachine guns. Most of these fatalities were women, children, and elderly people. The fact that this village had signed a non-aggression pact with the Israelis makes this especially more heinous. And this is not the only village that I'm sorry. This is not the only village that these atrocities took place in. The people of Haifa, Jaffa, West Jerusalem, Beisan, and Acre were also subjected to this brutality. This is all in the name of ensuring that the colonial imperialist state of Israel had land to spread its poison on. While it's extremely important to talk about the history of brutal colonization that the Palestinians have faced, we must also talk about how Israel continues this pattern in more recent years. I'm going to simply give you a rapid-fire list of what they have done to help their enormous list of war crimes sink in. 2006, the Lebanon War. The Human Rights Watch charges Israel with targeting civilian infrastructure. This accusation goes unignored. 2008 to 2009 Gaza War. The United Nations charges Israel with the following: collective punishment, disproportionate force against civilians, which resulted in the death of hundreds of civilians. Despite IDF propaganda, IDF soldiers say they were instructed to shoot indiscriminately and to cleanse houses and neighborhoods. Human shields. These are hundreds of documented instances. They even used children. There was an 11-year-old boy who was used as cover for IDF soldiers while they were under fire. White phosphorus. They hit the NASA hospital. They also hit the UN RWA compound with phosphorus munitions and started a devastating fire. The IDF tries to excuse this as a smokescreen. Any of this sounding familiar yet? Let's continue. The 2014 Gaza War. The UNRWA charged Israel with civilian deaths, targeting UNRWA schools, high-accuracy drone strikes. 547 people were murdered in total. 120 of them were women under 60, 29 people over 60, and 250 children. The IDF stated that they could not distinguish between civilians and Hamas because Hamas were in civilian clothing. Sound familiar? This is what started the Hamas using human shields as narrative.
Your 5 minutes is up. Thank you.
Free Palestine!
Council members, the next person signed up for public forum is Andronicus Thomas. Mr. Thomas, if you come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and you'll have up to 5 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Andronicus Thomas, 3236 Wilson Avenue. I'm back again to speak about what I feel is going on at KCDC. I would like to thank the mayor for giving me a phone call. Either I missed or I didn't get the return phone call that you said you would call me back. But if I did miss it, I apologize. We still families here in Knoxville are losing housing that I feel that is an unjust by unlawful practice by KCDC, the unlawful practice of a promissory note. I'm a 31-year employee. I have asked to have a sit-down meeting with someone from KCDC upper management to show me where I'm wrong. I have went through HUD policies and procedures over and over again. I haven't found nowhere where we can force these people to either sign a promissory note or be evicted from their homes. It is impossible. This has been going on for 2 years. We first went to the board at KCDC and they pushed us off. We went back to our upper management, they pushed us off. The explanation that I have is that this is a mechanism they're using to collect rent that does not have to be approved by the board. All I'm asking for, Mayor, if you can use your influence to have a meeting for them to explain why we are evicting our people for something that KCDC initiated by telling these people not to pay their rent so they could collect money from ERA. There are people losing their housing every day on this policy that KCDC is implementing. I worked for KCDC 31 years. I've never had a write-up in my file. Any of you can look at my personnel file. I have never came before you with any concerns about this. This is how passionate I am about it. I'm not going anywhere. They can push me to the side. We'll come up with another strategy to try to get this out to the public. I had a community fair at my development today. Thank you, Councilwoman McKenzie, for attending. As she could see, we had over 100 needed families that we provided service to: food, washing powder, cleaning supplies. These are the things that our people are still suffering. For 31 years, I was able to help people. My hands are tied. My hands are tied now. So I'm asking you all, please, just get us a sit-down meeting. If everything I'm saying, if I'm misinterpreting HUD policies and procedures, tell me that. I can't even get my CEO to call me back. I see him more at city council meeting than I do at my property. Councilwoman was there today. There was nobody from upper management at my development today. No one, not one person from KCDC upper management was there. And I know part of it is because it's my property and I'm speaking out about this bogus promissory note. But we are kicking people out on the streets. I was here last Tuesday for court. I had the docket for KCDC. We had over 40 people on the docket. 40 people on the docket. I'm pleading with you all to take a look at what's going on at KCDC. Take a look at this bogus promissory note that they're having people to sign. Like I told you before last week or the week before I was here, I have a tenant, $251 rent. For her to maintain housing for her and her 3 kids, she has to pay a promissory note of $771 plus her rent for 6 months to maintain her housing. And if $251 is 30% of her income, what is 771%? That's all I'm asking. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next person signed up to speak to public forum is Lilith Sweeney. Lilith Sweeney, if you want to come to the podium, you'll have up to 5 minutes to address council.
All right. So I mentioned earlier about kind of the hopelessness stuff going on. Some of the bigger issues of like things that we want to be talking about, including the ceasefire. I don't know, y'all. It just sucks. They're doing a whole dance right now about the ceasefire, where they called one again, and within just a few days, there were already bombs falling again. Spoiler, they're not from Hamas. It's every time a ceasefire comes up, they veto it at the resolution. Sorry, y'all, I'm not good at public speaking. This is not normally where you see me. But they just don't want it. This is a losing issue for them. Protests have disrupted football games, city markets, council meetings, and streets all over the country, all over the world. Coastal city docks are being disrupted. Military shipments. I saw a crazy video of people just like charging a fence line earlier. Wild. And there's of course the Yemeni Islamic Revolutionary Group fielded an entire navy to peacefully seize ships supporting the state of Israel. So these protests are not just contained to like liberal blue city centers and blue American states. This is a global demand. And every day that this continues, that weapons continue to flow, money and supplies continue to flow, our elected leaders continue to flow, every day that these bodies keep falling, anger is going to grow. Recently, Chattanooga, Johnson City, and a bunch of other cities around us also joined the growing wave of protests. And across the South, we continue to organize and try to work to find solutions like the ceasefire resolution that seems to never go anywhere. Outside of Knoxville, as y'all know, there's a chicken processing plant in Morristown. Became locally famous a few years ago when the workers started organizing, the migrant workers, and they were disappeared by immigration services. Kept there in low pay, bad conditions, no health care, obviously no option for organizing, and no workman's comp. It's something that's very similar to what we see in Gaza as well, at least pre-October 7th, in that a lot of these people were farmers employed by Israelis under those same list of conditions, low pay, no workman's comp, no health insurance, et cetera. And of course, are able to be disappeared. There's, I forget how many thousands and thousands of prisoners held with no trial, but when I look to East Knoxville, where our black population has been pushed over the years out of their older historic neighborhoods, I see no hospitals, no grocery stores. I see redlining alive and well. I see streets with no sidewalks. I see cracks. And a few years ago, we saw a dead kid. We saw Lisa Edwards ripped out of her chair. We saw, I've already lost 3 friends this year to like various preventable diseases as well. So I'm actually kind of shaking up here thinking about it. Like, it just feels like I'm surrounded by death. And I need people to wake up. Like, this is not going to go away. The political situation around it is not going to get better. Because even if it does in the United States, what is continuing to happen is that more and more and more countries are turning against Israel and therefore turning against the US as Israel tries to just protect it over and over and over. What is happening is that this isn't going to win. It cannot go forever. Even beyond just a ceasefire, these kinds of activities, we're surrounded by death. And I need people to think and wake up. Like, we have to be internationalists, and again and again and again. Because back during World War II, we brought Nazis back for Program Paperclip. We brought them back and put them in NASA. We supported Pinochet. We supported terrorist networks for 30 years in Europe that caused 30 years of civil war, no surprise. Our money going overseas always cycles back around. I mean, what do we think is going to happen? We just have to stop it. We have to. Good timing. So thanks.
Thank you. The next person signed up to speak at public forum is Patricia Barrier. Patricia Barrier, are you present? Okay.
Hi. Name is Patricia Barrier, 807 Phillips Avenue, Knoxville, Tennessee, 37920. The reason why I'm here this evening is so that I can make sure that something is put on record.
Could you just put your microphone down a little bit, just so we can hear you better? Yeah.
I just want to make sure that something is put on record. Number one, it would be really awesome to have had our one-year plan and our zoning really look at SW1, because SW1 was supposed to be low-density residential, and we have high-density and low-density. My reason for being here, though, this evening, and Tommy Smith is aware of this, I knew he wasn't going to be here tonight. This is pertaining to a 2-inch gas line that was put from South Banks up to Phillips Avenue within, it is a right-of-way, but it is a right-of-way that was compromised a few years ago due to a KUB, a water main break that happened in February 2013. Anyways, KUB fixed it, and it broke again in November of that same year, and there's many pictures of it. But anyways, this 2-inch gas main was put through the sinkhole that occurred when that water main broke. This is a picture of where the sinkhole is, and this 2-inch gas line is going through this. The gas line goes through an old drainage, stormwater drain down at Langford and Barber. Then it goes through the roots of an 80-year-old oak tree, a very large oak tree. Then it goes through this massive sinkhole that occurred when KUB did not fix the repair the first time. And after a week of notifying them that the road was collapsing and there was water underneath the road, and the road finally did, this is when it was starting to collapse. This is when it was in the middle of collapsing, and then, of course, it turned into that major sinkhole that traveled from where C3 Studios is being built, where the water originally came from, traveled down to 701, crossed Barber, and then literally blew a sinkhole there by 611. Now, this is under the street at Barber. It's also in the right-of-way. There's a 2-inch gas line, and I really think that this needs to be looked at because this is detrimental to a neighborhood. We know how gas lines can, on occasion, blow. But this is compromised section, and I do believe that this needs to be looked at by KUB, our engineering, to make sure everything is safe. The gas line was not supposed to go there. It was not in the utility plans. There is, anyways, I think it's I think this is dangerous. It concerns me as this could affect our neighborhood. Barber will be greatly traveled by vehicles, which we didn't want to have happen. But anyways, I do have great concerns for it. I don't know how the gas line got approved to go up Barber, since it wasn't in the original plans. I think that it's definitely compromised. There's no doubt about it. This is unstable. Also, why not just close Barber down and allow it for pedestrian traffic only, being as this is definitely compromised.
Thank you.
Dawn Michelle Foster.
Ms. Barrier, thank you. Your 5 minutes is up, but if at the end of the meeting, I'll ask Grant Rosenberg, the COO, to get that information from you, and we'll make sure
Absolutely.
KUB is aware.
Yeah, and thank you for listening.
Thank you. Council members, that concludes public forum, and without objection, this meeting is adjourned.